talk to him and hopefully have him just pull over. And right now I don't see the police doing anything real radical at this point, because right now there's nobody in danger as we watch this.
Do you believe that people are being kept off of the freeway? I'm still somewhat astonished by the light traffic there on this Friday night.
You know what, I missed that. You were blocked by another radio. Could you say again?
Ron, I was saying, do you think perhaps that motorists are being kept off that freeway? Because I'm astonished at the light level of traffic on this Friday night. It's very unusual.
It is unusually light traffic out here. We're looking all the way westbound, and we can see almost up to the 605, and it continues light like this all the way up towards that 605 freeway.
We were talking about what options they have. We have to keep in mind, Ron, that
it's very difficult for us to tell. I don't know how much tighter that we have here, but and he says that's as tight as we can go right now. So from our vantage point, we cannot tell exactly how many are in the vehicle at all.
Again, all this is presumption now. It's apparent that the police believe it.
Well,
and that is Cowlings' car, and that Simpson is in the driver's seat. We've received a report of a gun in the car. The car is heading north, which would be toward Los Angeles. We picked it up in Orange County. The vehicle is registered to Al Cowling, a former teammate, close friend of OJ Simpson's, who has been a fugitive from justice now almost 12 hours. The car is not exceeding the speed limit, and the police are not forcing it and are not pulling it over. You see them all trailing it. That's the California Highway Patrol are trailing it, but not pulling it over.
Show the people on the bridges, Jeff.
Obviously, everyone else is pulled off the lane. As you look far ahead, no cars are there. Now it's going to go under another freeway, and you see police cars atop that freeway. Now, the police do have speakers in those vehicles. They can speak, as if you've ever been pulled over sometimes, you'll hear the police officer say, come out of your car, you were speeding or something. They can't speak to that car. Reuters is reporting that the police tracked O.J. Simpson through his cellular phone. Apparently, he was on the cellular phone, and they tracked him through there, and that's how they picked up this car. To his mother and his children. No report on anything other than police keeping a clear distance behind. There's no rule book on this because...
Right here, Pat.
This hasn't happened.
Yeah, it seems to be that way, and the traffic up above is still, in fact, I'm trying to look down through my lower window. It appears that CHP has stopped traffic on the on-ramps coming onto the 91 westbound, just to let the officers proceed at a nice pace coming through here. Again, they don't want anything to happen to this suspect vehicle. They want to try to keep it as safe as possible. But there's definitely a crowd growing on every overpass that we see, vehicles and people that want to get a glimpse and see if this is in fact OJ coming down the freeway.
Apparently, the reports we get, they're about 40 minutes.
Absolutely.
And they are almost certain that OJ is in the passenger seat.
Pat, we're just now crossing the 605
California
at the
Highway Patrol is also telling
so
CNN,
we're starting to get up into the Long Beach area, or actually northeast Long Beach.
But again, OJ appears to be holding a gun to his head.
Well, David, the 405 is not too
And that
much
OJ
farther
is
down
saying,
than 91.
apparently in
The
his
next
cellular phone, that he
major
wants to
we'll
go
come
to his mother's
will
house.
be the Long Beach or the
That he
710
wants to
freeway.
go to his
Then after
mother's
that
house
would
is
be the
apparently in a
110 freeway.
report we're getting.
And then after that, you'd hit the 405. So, I mean, at this point, we really have no idea which or where the final destination may be for purported O.J. Simpson inside this white Bronco.
You are listening to KCL's coverage. There's an anchor in the studio and a man in the helicopter, a reporter. That has been identified. This is Larry King as we stay atop this scene. Jim Hill, famed sportscaster in Los Angeles, an old friend, a former athlete.
case, as it has been in so many of these pursuits on Southern California Freeway.
You know, L.A. Belt.
That was the All Points Bulletin that was issued for O.J. Simpson. They now have him very much in...
abreast of where they are and what the situation is, and for the time being, everyone seems...
All right, Jay, if you could turn...
I was a kid back in Greensboro, man, watching you play.
Vince, if you could turn down your television set.
Man, I'm just praying that you guys will just give yourself up, man. Just stop. Please stop. In Jesus' name, just stop, man. Because we love you, man. Just stop.
Vince Evans, we thank you for joining us. How long have you been watching here? Have you been watching for most of the last half hour or so?
Yeah, I have.
And your thoughts about what his mental state might be? To be doing something like this? This certainly isn't the OJ you know.
Well, it isn't, but I know he's been under a lot of pressure, and I'm sure that he's feeling like the world is against him right now, but like myself, and I'm sure so many other people, he's greatly loved, man. If he just knew how much people care for him and love him. And I know that he's just feeling like everything is going against him right now, but he's not doing himself any good by just proceeding like this. And I just want him to know how much he's loved, man, how much he's loved.
Vince, you go back a long way with O.J. Simpson to your college playing days. You've known him for many, many years. Tell us your feelings about O.J. and what you know of him, what kind of a man he is.
Well, I don't think you can say enough about this man. I mean, he epitomizes just everything that Jim Hill has so eloquently talked about, and just in terms of being a role model, just in terms of him being a class guy, you know, instilling, you know, classy qualities in individuals everywhere he went. He always handled himself like a gentleman. And, you know, I just can't say enough about him.
As we're watching here, Vince, we're seeing a car that's been pulling up and pulling back, and now we see the white Bronco take off at a speed that's considerably faster than it's been driving before.
We can't identify that other car, that it has apparently been playing some form of tag with the Bronco there. Don't know if it is, obviously there's some kind of an official vehicle, but we don't know what it is.
But look at the people standing on the freeway there, waving.
There are a number of people standing on the side of the road. Just the curious and also well-wishers. We watch people wave and blow kisses as Mr. Simpson drives by.
Which is to continue with our coverage.
Near the 110 freeway. And it's interesting to note the time. This started apparently around 6:45, a little bit after the main part of rush hour. Authorities, though, are attempting to clear the freeway, although you can see a car right there going up right next to the Bronco. Not an easy job clearing the freeway. O.J. Simpson formally charged today with 2 counts of murder. He was supposed to surrender at 11 o'clock today. Basically, his attorney turned his back, and O.J. managed to get away.
Get away, apparently, with his good friend, Al Cowlings. Now, we have a little bit of an update. This is off the Associated Press wire, or excuse me, the Reuters wire. According to someone who is monitoring police scanners, the man in the car says he would not give himself up. He's in the back of the vehicle. He has a gun to his head, and he says he will hurt himself. He is demanding to be taken to his mother. Now, that apparently is information off a police scanner, according to the Reuters newswire. Said that he basically thought he had done what was right all his life and wanted to be remembered for that. He asked the media to leave his kids alone and for all of us to remember him for what he had been.
He also proclaimed his innocence in that note. He said, quote, "First, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder." Went on to say, if we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Don't feel sorry for me. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I help yours. Peace and love, O.J. His attorney had said that he'd been extremely depressed. He was under the care of doctors. One friend is quoted as saying he had never seen O.J. Simpson so low.
The vehicle, we believe, with Al Cowlings and O.J. Simpson in it, And it looks like the emergency flashers are going on that Bronco. That's the first time we've had sort of this view of the vehicle. And it is going westbound again. It appears the way the sun is hitting the front of the vehicle, although it's a little bit difficult to tell because they have made a transition from one freeway to another. And there you see just a huge number of police cars, CHP, Orange County Sheriff, LAPD, presumably Los Angeles County Police Department as well as LA County Sheriff's cars, all a respectful distance behind, just waiting, hopefully, for this to play itself out peacefully without any further loss of life or any more damage and destruction. On the phone now we have psychiatrist Dr. Tom Linden. And Dr. Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Chris.
At this point, we have reports that O.J. Simpson is in this vehicle. One report says he has a gun pointed to his head, says he will not be taken alive, and wants to be taken to see his mother. At this point, what would you deduce psychiatrically from those comments?
Okay, now we understand we have a psychiatrist with us at our studios in Atlanta, Dr. Alfred Nesser. Are you there, Dr. Nesser?
I'm here.
Okay.
Messer, M-E-S-S-E-R.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Based on what that psychiatrist just told the Fox station, would you agree with him?
Oh, yes, I think Tom Linden has it just right. What he's describing, I think, is what we call a dissociated state, where people act in one way, or a part of them acts in one way, and they behave in another and think in another. The end result of that, or the end station of that, is multiple personality disorder. And here we have a more acute phase of that, a dissociated state.
What part, Doctor, does the fellow driving the car, his old friend, play in this now?
Well, he's the key, I think in many ways the key, and I think his friend Vince is the key. What O.J. has to know is that he's not being abandoned. He's not all alone. He's very angry at all that's happened to him, but he has to know that he's not being abandoned. In my book, I think a lot of this began with the difficulty with his ex-wife and her feeling that the two of them could not make it together. Larry, do you remember the situation in Annapolis before the Army-Navy game when the two Navy officers who were engaged split up because the woman wanted no longer to maintain the engagement?
That's right, one went
and she said to him, it's ended, and he went off in a huff. She called a good friend, another naval officer, to come over and sit with her and comfort her. And then the first man came back and suddenly saw these two together. And he shot the two of them, and then he shot himself.
I'm going to cut into you, and let's go back to KTTV for more reports right from the scene.
I used to watch O.J. play football at USC when he was in college. I've got long memories about O.J., as do a lot of people, and I think a lot of people want to see this end peacefully, but I think they should keep in mind that joining in the spectacle at this point will not help.
We should add at this point, Dr. Tom Linden, that the car is now northbound on the 405, coming north from the 91, so headed back up toward the Santa Monica area, actually a long way from Santa Monica, but in that part of the world, coming north on the 405 freeway, on the San Diego freeway. And I'm struck, Dr. Linden, in regard to what you just said about having watched O.J. Simpson play for SC and for the Buffalo Bills and so on, and certainly all the myriad of commercials. Something that Gil Garcetti said today at his news conference, the district attorney, who said, we have seen the falling of an American hero. And I, Gil Garcetti, have shared that same view. And that's a view that we, particularly if you are an SC fan, of course, but I think just a sports fan and an American fan, here's a man whose last name never needs to be mentioned. It's always O.J., and everyone knows who you're talking about.
Well, you know, in such a chaotic and sometimes crazy world, everybody needs heroes, and there, I'm sure, millions of Americans have looked to O.J. as a hero, and when a hero is in trouble, it's very, very hard to accept, and I think that's probably the feeling of a lot of people. It's certainly my feeling.
Dr. Linden, let us give our viewers some more information. We understand the vehicle is traveling northbound on the 405 near the LAX area, south of LAX. Traveling northbound, interesting to note, that would be toward the Brentwood area. That is right where O.J. Simpson lives. That is near the location where the murders took place. Again, the vehicle has moved now from the 91 freeway to the 405. Before that, it was on the I-5 freeway. So they've covered quite a bit of distance here.
Christine, in that last close-up we had, it appeared that, although we had the one report that O.J. Simpson was in the back seat of that Ford Bronco, it looked as if in the last close-up we had of the passenger side that there was a person in the front passenger seat. Obviously somebody's driving it, but a person in the right front seat as well.
Right, you can see perhaps it looks like maybe a shoulder there or the seat there in that close-up shot of the Bronco. We should point out there are a convoy of officers that have been following this vehicle since it hit the freeways at about 6:45. That's when they spotted the vehicle. Among the people traveling in these vehicles is a top law enforcement hostage negotiator, part of the convoy trailing this Bronco. There are reports the authorities were trying to phone the Bronco, but they were getting no response. We do know there is a car phone in that vehicle because some calls had been made, and that is one way authorities were able to locate the vehicle, and they have confirmed this is the vehicle belonging to O.J. Simpson's former teammate, Al Cowlings.
And indeed, the cellular phone call at about 6:30 was what did trigger it. Because of technology, they knew that, number one, they knew that this was a vehicle that O.J. Simpson possibly was in, because it does belong to Al Cowlings, and he and Al Cowlings disappeared from another Simpson friend's home in the San Fernando Valley this morning. The attorney and a psychiatrist that had been dealing with O.J. Simpson since Monday, and some police officers were on one part of this friend's home, and they went to tell O.J. that the police were here to put him in handcuffs and take him to Parker Center, and they discovered that O.J. Simpson and Al Cowlings were gone. And that was now about 8 hours ago. As we continue to watch this Ford Bronco going north on the 405, and it was a phone call because they knew the cellular phone that went with that vehicle, a phone call at about 6:30 that triggered the search. It began in Orange County, a phone call made on the cellular phone from Al Cowlings' Bronco. Since then, there's been at least one call to 911 in which the person on the phone said that O.J. Simpson had a gun to his head and wanted to be taken to see his mother. Now, it's quite possible, since the car is going north on the 405, headed toward the LAX area, north of that, of course, is Brentwood, that perhaps O.J. Simpson's mother is at...
It ain't gonna happen.
We're back at CNN in Washington. We hear somebody yelling, "It ain't gonna happen." I don't know whose voice that is. Obviously, the helicopter's veered off a little now and is trying to catch back up to O.J. Simpson, heading past LAX on the 405 freeway north. His former famed coach, John McKay, one of the legendary coaches, has gotten on public radio to tell O.J. that he loves him, to beg him to please give himself up. Again, you see traffic in the south lane stopping and looking, police cars trailing, other traffic stopping off to the right, getting toward 8 o'clock in Los Angeles, about 25 minutes away from 8 o'clock. If they stayed right where they're going now, they're going to go right toward the Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Brentwood areas where O.J. lives and where the two people killed also lived. There's the Ford Bronco. O.J. reported in the back. There apparently appears to be something in the front as well. There's something appears sticking out of the right-hand side of that car. And again, they're losing the picture a little, is KTLA. Other reports we're getting is that O.J. appears to be a little incoherent, and they've picked him up a little on the phone, and the voice sounds slurred. There you see LAX. In fact, you see a plane landing at LAX. And I don't know what that is. That must be, that's part of the chopper. As the LA airport, one of the busiest in the world. 405 freeway is the freeway closest to the airport, runs north and south, called the San Diego Freeway. And the helicopter, obviously the reason the helicopter has gotten out of pattern here is there are commercial flights coming in and out of that airport. And you can't apparently, because if you're landing in L.A., as those people do, they always land from the east. They will go right over the 405, so they've obviously steered this helicopter to be out of position of not hitting a passenger plane. There you see the tip of the helicopter outside the cameras. Again, the car continues to travel. trailed by California Highway Patrol. We understand that Dr. Michael Baden can hear us. How are you, Michael?
Hi, Larry. Sorry to be talking to you at this time.
Yeah, Michael is an old friend. He's the famed forensic pathologist for New York City for many, many years, one of the foremost people in his field. I know you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, Michael, but you were with O.J. today. Can you tell us what happened this morning?
Yeah, I and Dr. Henry Lee, who's a criminalist type expert, and a psychiatrist, Saul Fairstein, and another doctor, an internist, were in the process of examining O.J. and had just finished examining O.J. and waiting for the police to arrive when he disappeared. And
what had he said to you, Michael?
Scientific studies.
What had he said to you?
Well, he was very cooperative. He was very. He indicated that he was very upset that he caused us upset by having to come there. He was depressed. He was obviously depressed. We were concerned, and arrangements had been made that he should be observed by a psychiatrist when he got into the correction department and when he was put into the prison cell.
Michael, you were called out as an expert on the cause of death and type of death and how the deaths would have occurred, right?
Yeah, I'm involved with Dr. Lee in trying to evaluate the scientific evidence, the autopsy findings, what type of weapon was used, what kind of trace evidence, hairs, fibers, blood stains.
For the defense, right?
Well, he hadn't been arrested yet. In order to make sure that nothing was overlooked, because O.J. Simpson wanted to find out who really killed his wife. And whatever that is, his lawyer, he hadn't been arrested yet, had wanted to make sure that nothing was overlooked. Mm-hmm. And we were there to collect evidence to go over what had been done.
As he says in his own letter, and as he said to you, he never admitted killing, right?
Well, certainly not to me.
Let me cut in a second, Michael. Let's go to KTLA and their coverage from the sky.
Desires of O.J. to return to Brentwood have been well publicized, so I guess there is contact between the units in pursuit and the Ford Bronco itself. It does appear that way, and especially they seem to have cleared the freeway pretty much like they do when you see a presidential motorcade. You'll notice that everyone is off to the sides and the freeway is wide open. Does it appear that way to you from your viewpoint, Craig?
Oh, most definitely. As you can see, just crossed over a section of lots of pedestrians on the freeway. The on-ramp at around Venice is just jam-packed with people, spectators looking out of their vehicles, looking on at the procession here, northbound 405.
Okay, Craig, Stan and I were just speculating about what the Highway Patrol and LAPD will do when they arrive at the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. Now, it's possible that that car may turn off at another point, and the access to his estate could be reached, of course, from Wilshire, or there is another turnoff, as I recall, near Waterford, which would then let him go under the freeway to Church Lane and then up to Sunset Boulevard. So I think that what we want to see, if you could accommodate us and our viewers, would be that when he gets to Sunset Boulevard, to see what happens next if the car gets that far.
Yes, it'll be quite interesting to see what is going to develop here in the next 5 minutes or so. Currently approaching the 405-10 interchange northbound.
So you're right near the Santa Monica freeway, and it looks as though the car is proceeding at, what would you estimate, 40, 45 miles an hour?
Yeah, approximately that speed is between 35 and 45 miles an hour, I would estimate.
Uh-huh. Okay, then from the I-10 interchange up to Sunset Boulevard is only going to be maybe 3 or 4 minutes more.
Oh, most definitely. We're just coming up on the interchange at this time into the West LA area, and if indeed someone is in communication with the vehicle, and that is a distinct possibility of getting off at Sunset en route to the Brentwood location, and possibly that could be a termination point.
It does look like he's going past the 10 turnoff, doesn't it?
Yes, currently at the interchange at this time, and he's continuing northbound on the 405.
Okay, now if I'm just making a guess here, he's either going to turn off at Waterford or at Sunset Boulevard. It's possible to go to the next turnoff and then double back to get to Sunset. But
yeah, he's right in front of me.
Craig, do you see any blockades on those off-ramps up ahead?
The off-ramps are quite blocked. It appears that a good number of people are pulled on the right shoulder and are out of their vehicles watching this procession proceed up the 405 freeway here. It's in this area, it's becoming more prevalent that people are stopped alongside the road and are watching this as it passes them by.
What off-ramp are you coming up on now? You should be approaching pretty close to Wilshire Boulevard, aren't you?
Coming up on Santa Monica Boulevard at this time,
right.
And that off-ramp is not blocked, and the vehicle is still in the far left lane,
right, so
continuing northbound.
Let's mention to our viewers that there are only 3 off-ramps now remaining if he's going to go to that Brentwood estate. There's the one coming up on Wilshire, which you're probably approaching now.
That's affirmative, Hal.
Okay, and then right after that, probably another 30 to 40 seconds, you'll be at Waterford. We'll see if he turns off on Waterford, but he's in the left lane.
Yes, left lane, currently left lane. You can see other traffic there with the vehicle. The left lane and the other traffic are pulling off to the right shoulder at this time, ahead of the vehicle.
Okay, now it's crucial to see if he starts moving over to the right lane.
It doesn't appear that will be the case due to the number of vehicles blocking the right lanes.
Craig, Eric Spillman is right there at the intersection of Sunset and the 405. Eric, can you read us? Go ahead and tell us what you see.
Well, first of all, we're just coming up. We're going north on the 405. We're coming to Sunset Boulevard right now. And I can tell you that I've seen CHP officers stopping people from getting onto the 405. The southbound 405, as you know, is a parking lot with everybody stopped and out of the cars looking, waiting for this chase to come. But the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp is open, and it appears that they think that he might get off here. The whole way going north along the 405, it is an amazing sight. Along the right-hand shoulder, people have pulled over, many of them carrying signs such as signs reading things like "Save the Juice," "Go OJ." People are literally cheering him on as he travels northbound on the 405, and we can only assume that he plans to get off at Sunset and go towards perhaps his home.
All right, now, Eric, do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we have been speculating that he would get off on Sunset. He must be approaching you right now. He is still in the far left lane. We'll let you know if he starts moving over into the right lane. Now, remember, there's an exit on that freeway right past Sunset Boulevard. I believe it's Moraga Drive.
There is. When you come to the Sunset Boulevard overpass over the 405, it is crowded with people who are outside on the bridge.
He's moving over now, Eric. He's moving over to the right, which means he may take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. He's now moving over to the right lane.
Go, follow.
Craig, are we approaching Sunset Boulevard now?
Yes, we are now.
Okay, we're approaching Sunset Boulevard.
There's a crowd of people who are on the bridge here watching as he approaches the Sunset Boulevard.
All right, Eric.
Looks like there's a...
Eric, it appears now as though he is getting... As I recall, there are 2 lanes on the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. He is in one of them, and that's the lane he would be using. Looks like he's getting off there.
Okay, Hal, it looks like he is getting off at the off-ramp at Sunset.
Right. Okay.
Getting off, he's on the off-ramp now, coming up the off-ramp at Sunset. Lots of people at the overpass at Sunset, and possibly here will be a westbound turn en route to Brentwood.
That's right.
Looks like he's in the left lane now.
Yeah.
Making a left turn. The intersection's free, and he's clear, and now making his left turn westbound on Sunset.
All right. He must have gone right by you, Eric.
Well, he has, and we're staying ahead of it. We're going to his mansion, believing that he's going there, but it was an amazing situation on that overpass there. There were people running around on top of there. I don't know how he's going to be able to drive through all those people. All along Sunset Boulevard, there are people stopped as well ahead of the chase. We can only assume he's going to his home on Rockingham in Brentwood.
Okay, Eric, that's exactly what had happened. He did take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp, as we had speculated, and now he is proceeding west on Sunset Boulevard. He just went past Woodburn and will be approaching Barrington Avenue.
And there's a red light at Barrington. There are lights on this. I don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to respond to traffic lights. He hasn't had to cope with that, but there's quite a lot of traffic lights. We're hearing the sirens behind us now. He is right behind us. We're hearing the sirens. The police have their sirens on. Both sides of the street have pedestrians.
All right,
They've just passed us at Barrington.
He just went past Barrington.
Just passed us at Barrington, followed by the sheriffs. They're Orange County Sheriff, Santa Ana police officers who are in pursuit.
Okay, Eric, it's only now probably 3 minutes at the most, I would say, to his home in Brentwood.
That's right. His home west of the 405 on a street called Rockingham.
Right.
He will have to make a right turn onto Rockingham, and that is where his mansion is. It looks like there's at least 10, well, maybe not 10, but 7 or 8 Santa Ana police, Orange County sheriffs, and highway patrol officers following him, as well as regular private citizens on motorcycles who are following this chase now. And we're right behind them.
I know, how far behind the Bronco are you, Eric?
I'd say we're less than a mile behind.
Okay.
What's going to happen is that street, Rockingham, is a very, very narrow street. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work when he tries to make that right turn onto Rockingham and go up towards his mansion. The mansion itself is about a mile or so up Rockingham on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. And also, once again, if we can continue to speculate, it will be interesting to see if he is allowed to go into the mansion itself or whether he will be stopped short of it.
That's a good question.
Remember, there are people there in that mansion, and I don't think law enforcement wants any kind of siege to take place. Then again, it is possible he may have said on the phone, all I want to do is see my mother and children, and then I will surrender. So that is also a point for speculation, too.
It's hard to say what in the world is on his mind at this point.
That's right.
But he is getting very close to Rockingham. We're getting very close. He's going to be making that turn very soon. There he goes. Okay, he has made a turn.
Yeah, he's off Sunset now.
He did not make a turn on Rockingham. He turned on a street called, hang on, Bristol Circle, I think.
Yeah,
Bristol Circle North is where he turned off of Sunset.
Yeah, he'll make a left turn now to get over to his street, which is Rockingham.
This is the back way that you can get to his mansion.
That's right.
Okay, we're following not only black and whites with their sirens on and their lights flashing, but again, there's about 10 private citizens on motorcycles who have joined the pursuit as well.
We can
very close to the house now, very, very close. We're right in the neighborhood. We are right on the block where his house is.
Okay, and he is pulling in to the driveway.
Coming around.
Someone is going to the door right now, Eric.
Okay, we're pulling up. Let me tell you what I can see. We've just turned the corner. It's total chaos here. Motorcycles, black and whites, people running around, officers getting out of their cars with their batons, people running, they're keeping our cameras away. They won't let our cameras through.
Okay, I can understand that, but we do have an aerial view, Eric.
Okay, we're gonna show you a picture from the ground here as soon as we can, but the sheriffs are not letting us get up close enough to actually see what's going on with the naked eye. So you have the best viewpoint from the helicopter there. They're stopping us.
Is that something out of this, pointed out of the window there, Hal, on the passenger side?
Well, it did...
Or is that just the mirror?
That might be the mirror.
But he's right in the courtyard.